In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6 PL 1975 C 231 S1 amended 2006 C70 S2, the Asbury Park Board of Education has provided adequate notice of this meeting by sending a notice of the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting to the Asbury Park Press, the New Coaster, on January 8th, 2021, via email. Copies of this notice have also been placed at the administration bulletin board, in the district schools, Asbury Park Municipal Building, Asbury Park Police Department, and filed with the city clerk on January 8th, 2021. The mission statement of the Asbury Park School District is to provide all students with a comprehensive and progressive education where everyone possesses the skill and character to succeed in a diverse, evolving global society. Roll call, please, Mr. Hastings.
Ms. Alves-Anderson? Here. Ms. Breach? Here. Ms. Cook? Mr. Grillo?
Here.
Mr. LaTorraca? Mr. Remy? Mr. Saunders? Ms. Lozinski? Here. Ms. Etienne?
Here. May we please stand for the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're going to start with the committee chair reports. Let's start with Ms. Cook.
Okay, so items 1 through 5. These items are recommendation for development and submission of grants. Grants involve Perkins to help fund our CTE program at the Asbury Park High School, the NJSIG safety grant to improve safety in our schools, the NJDCA local recreational improvement grants to help repair our tennis courts, and the TLAAS Nita M. Lowry 21st Century Community Learning Center, which is a 5-year grant for $500,000 a year, totaling $2.5 million for all of 5 years, which fund a major part of our after-school and summer program. Items 7 through 8 are recommendations for the CPR training sessions for pre-K staff and nurses. Items 13 to 17 are recommendations to continue our partnership with Big Brother, Big Sister monitoring program, school year 21-22. The BBBS mentoring program includes the high school allied health monitoring program, Project Venture Beyond School Walls monitoring program, Project BAM Beyond Schools Wall monitoring program, the Asbury Park High School to MLK leadership monitoring program, and the Jersey Shore Medical Center monitoring program for our allied health CTE students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Any questions? Okay. May we have Ms. Breach? Can you give us a report on your committee?
Unfortunately, due to vacations and some other scheduling conflicts, we did not meet before tonight's meeting. We are going to meet next week, but we do have the date. I think you all have to save the date for the athletic banquet on the 17th.
Okay, Mr. Hastings, do you mind giving us an update for Buildings and Grounds and Finance?
Certainly. The Finance Committee met on May 20th, discussed several issues, including the status of ESSER funding. We received the third wave of the American Rescue Plan, which is also called ESSER 3, on May 24th. The district is in the process of putting together some plan requirements, including a safe return plan that has to be filed with the county office within 30 days. And we're also looking at budgeting issues associated with the funding that we're receiving. So we've received NJ CARES funds, or also ESSER 1, ESSER 2 funds, and now we're on the third wave of the American Rescue Plan with ESSER 3. The committee discussed and got an update on our energy savings improvement plan and working with Energy Systems Group. We've completed the first phase, which includes an audit by the BPU, a third-party review of the plan that would be put in place to start with energy savings projects throughout the district. The plan was reviewed by our third party. They worked with ESG to make any corrections or clarify any issues with the plan. The plan was submitted to BPU, and the plan itself has now been approved by the Board of Public Utilities for us to move forward. The next phase would be to discuss potential contract with ESG and decide how the district would like to move forward with the implementation of the plans. At the last meeting, the board asked about boilers at Barack Obama School. We updated the board on a visit from our district architect and engineer. They looked at the boilers. We have 3 boilers at Barack. All are marked as containing asbestos, so they would need to address that issue in removing those boilers. The boilers are past their expected life, but are still in working order. The estimated cost for removing the boilers and installing new ones is $700,000. Additionally, it was noted that we'd have to do some work on the exhaust stack, which also contains asbestos, and the estimated cost for that was about $125,000. And further, the board had asked about moving costs for central office over to Obama, and we did have Mr. Souza had someone come out and do an estimate, and their number was approximately $20,000. We also updated the committee on a meeting with administration and a representative of the VNA, and he expressed interest in perhaps moving some of his offices into the first floor of the Obama building. We updated the committee on negotiations with the APEA and the completion of the agreement and the MOU with them, and that would be on the agenda, as well as the increase for non-affiliated staff members. Then finally, as Ms. Cook mentioned, we talked about the security grant that is being approved by the county and now goes before the legislature. That's an $85,000 grant that we had put forth based on a referendum from approximately 2 years ago, and that was the basics of the Finance Committee. On the Buildings and Grounds Committee, we also met on the same day. The only 2 additional items that were not that were discussed there but not in finance were the facility use requests. We reviewed the process that the committee has had in place for applications and having those applications completed before the meeting of the committee so that they can take a look at those and not be surprised at this meeting with submissions and not have questions that can go unanswered. With the change in the COVID restrictions, we did receive a number of them. However, only 2 provided all the paperwork necessary to be considered for a fee waiver. We also had submissions by City Rec, and they're in a different status with us in terms of facility use, and those requests for summer school and for basketball over the summer were approved by my office. And then the committee was presented with a proposal from Charity Kings regarding a partnership agreement with the district and Charity Kings, the purpose being to have Charity Kings raise funds that would then be used for various projects around the district, including work at the Barack Obama School, work at the middle school, the upper elementary school field, and some work at the high school stadium. That was forwarded to the attorney for review and for some guidance on what process we would need to take to move forward with that. The committee suggested that any questions be addressed at this meeting, or at least be brought up so that we could then forward them to Charity Kings and have them respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Are there any questions at this time?
Yes, I have some questions in regards to the Obama building. Now, the cost to rehab the 3rd floor.
The cost from the architects and engineers to convert the 3rd floor from classrooms into office space is approximately $2.4 million.
And that does not include the replacement of the 3 boilers?
That's correct.
So you said that was 700,000?
700 for the boiler replacement, because we'd replace the 3 that are there with 3 new ones that'll be more efficient. And actually 2 are online at a time, and the third is sort of a backup unit. So if one would go down, we'd have the third one to fall back on. And the additional cost of addressing the exhaust stack, which was about I believe I said 125,000.
And then the move is 20,000?
Estimated at 20,000, yes, ma'am.
So we're looking at, on top of the 2.4 million, we're looking at an additional $850,000 to be added to the 2.4. And then there is an unknown variable as to how much it's going to cost to remove things that might be hazard.
Yes, so there is a contingency that is built into the 2.4, but again, when you start opening walls and addressing issues, as with most projects, there are some unknowns that pop up that need to be addressed.
Are we allowed to discuss the cost of the other building?
I would hold off on doing that in public, only because there may be a negotiation that's involved down the road, and that discussion would be more appropriate for executive session.
May I just comment? As part of my report tonight, I was going to tell the board, so it's appropriate to mention it now, that I am in conference with the state to look at have someone come down and look at the building to see before we begin any work. I know there's been a resolution by the board for the Obama building, but before we commit and start to spend money on it, I think we better find out if the state is going to approve it. And there are a number of issues when this came up that I think we have to be prepared to discuss. One of them certainly is the fact that we would be spending the amount that you just mentioned for one floor, as opposed to, and I'm trying to choose my words so I don't argue what Adam just recommended here. I don't want to get into the negotiation aspect, but there's some serious, let me just sum it up by saying that there are, to me, some serious concerns and answers to questions that we need as to whether or not it's a good financial investment. Is that all right, Adam?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay. Yes, you could. So that was going to be part, I just wanted the board to be aware that I was doing that, and that was a concern, and that when I have those answers, I will be back to the board with some, at least, guidance in that area.
Carl, what's the process of how that works?
Well, the state has it under statute. There are some, guidelines that are set up for everything concerning the buildings. For instance, you just can't go out and sell a building or a property that belongs to the school. And please, Adam, correct me if I get off the wrong step here.
So far, so good.
Okay. So there is a process, and the state is concerned to protect the taxpayer, really, I guess, more than anything else, to make certain that a board doesn't either purchase a property without proper, either a referendum or whatever, or dispose of property that may not be technically it's to dispose of, for lack of a better. So there's a process also, for instance, when you go to a referendum to fix a building, obviously the voters have to vote, and there's a whole process involved in that step. If you're just fixing a building, and there's a lot of question, at this point as to what some of the new money, the release of money is going to permit. The difficulty with this issue is that we're talking about a building that's a floor that's primarily going to be used for administrative purposes and not students. So that changes, Joe, the process as well. And I can't say that I know every step of it, but I do know that obviously the concern is that we are investing in a situation that is the best, the state's interest would be the best financial as well as educational decision that we could make. So it's not a question of throwing up obstacles, but it is a question of saying that, you know, is this way better than these options to invest your money in? And that's what I want to be comfortable in advising the board, and I think the board probably also would want to be comfortable in going that route and answering questions that the public might have. I know that one of the concerns has been perception, you know, do we buy something as opposed to repair that might seem foolish to somebody that says, why are you purchasing if you already have space in a building? But it's not quite as simple as that when you look at the cost and the other factors that are involved. And at least this way, if I can get an answer for the board, at least you would have an answer for the public to be able to say, we consider that, even if it's 5 years from now and somebody stands and says, why didn't you do such and so? You could say, we considered that. However, at the time, this was the advice that we received from the state. This was what the state was willing to approve. And this is why we went ahead with whatever it is we went ahead with.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions about buildings and grounds or finance? Okay, Mr. Grillo, do you have any update on policy?
There's no updates.
Okay, at this time, we'd be opening up the floor for the public participation part of the meeting. If you have a comment and/or question, please come to the podium and state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
And might I add that we are broadcasting our meeting via WebEx, so we do have the public comment mailbox open at asburypark.k12.nj.us. And I believe Mr. Brannigan noted that we did have a caller on the line there, so we can check with him on that as well. I do have 2 public comments that were submitted via the email at this time. The first was an email submitted by Myandra Dixon, May 23rd, 2021, to the Asbury Park Board of Education. We, the undersigned, are parents and/or guardians of children in the Asbury Park school system. We are concerned about our children's futures because we have long suspected that the education in this district is controlled by interests that don't improve the school system, but rather further damage it, and along with it, the lifelong educational and economic prospects of our children. A recent letter by a current school employee who is a highly respected member of the community, one who was born and raised in Asbury, has provided some transparency to the inner workings of the district. This gentleman was brave to do what no one else currently employed by the district has done, to let his moral compass be his guide, whatever the risk to his livelihood and vocation, to expose the dysfunction in the district that starts at the very top. A published survey of staff and teachers conducted by the teachers union supported claims made by this man. How is it that the members of the school board, who have failed in their duty to provide oversight and seem not to have a sense of the needs of the parents in the district, be trusted to select an interim when their judgment and moral scruples are in serious question? Our children's futures are in jeopardy, and we as parents and concerned individuals demand the following. 1, that an independent review board select the interim, and 2, that the current list of candidates be scrapped and the job application for interim superintendent be reposted. The current school administration and its enablers, such as the school board and the state monitor, need to be held in check, or we will never have educational equity for our children. Catherine Miller, Sean Brown, Roxana Martinez, Pamela Ferguson, Janice Ferguson, Linda Jones. Our second letter is from Mr. Tracy Rogers, local advocate. Dear Board of Education members and to whom it may concern, the fact that this letter is from me will come as no surprise, as many of you have labeled me a troublemaker. But if calling attention to neglected and mismanagement is considered troublesome, then I am here just to do that. Sorry. I recently read the letter from a community trusted principal in the community, and it highlighted the same concerns that many other staff members and I have expressed in the past. On numerous occasions, I have spoken about the problems in this district because I have better pulse on this community than some on this board and the district monitor. The reality of this is not only unfortunate but offensive. The children in this district have been neglected for political purposes. I know this board would like to present a different picture of this school district, but the facts are the facts. This city still has one of the highest cost per district in the state. The reduction in student per cost is not brainchild of this board, but that of the S2 state bill. This district is also losing students to charter schools because the education of these students are receiving is well below standard. Parents are tired of arguing with this board and simply moving their children to a better learning environment. I am not trying to embarrass this board, but simply state facts that this is unacceptable. While it is not necessary to repeat the same points that were in the principal's letter, I want to state that I do also agree with the comments and survey by the teachers. In addition to this letter, I want to highlight a few more issues that were called out. Is it all right to mention staff in the letter?
Say, a teacher.
A teacher in the district often referenced the necessity of hiring a behavioralist in the district. People have talked about the dysfunctional hiring practices, like getting rid of a position like the director of curriculum after a failed plan to protect the person's job. In my past professional experience with problems like this, we would get a task force to come in and interview the staff to investigate, evaluate practices, and create an independent report. I would suggest this school district do the same. I do not believe the task force should not have direct connection to the superintendent or the board. A report can be done in 6 to 8 weeks. Lastly, I would like to suggest you hold off interviews and appoint to the interim position Ms. Buford, who was considered a community trusted administrator. She can provide the trusted values of the children, community, and teachers. If any of the board members who want to contact me about the task force process, please feel free. I will email Mr. Hastings my number. Again, Tracy Rogers, local advocate. Those are the only comments in our public comment box. Mr. Brannigan, is there anyone making comment on the WebEx link? Okay. No phone call? No.
Okay, are there any additional comments or questions? All right, at this point, the public participation part, it will be closed.
We're closing public at 6:29.
Okay, so we're going to go over our regular agenda items. Yes, please. I'm sorry, Madam Superintendent.
Good evening, Madam President, board members. Are there any questions regarding items on B1? Questions regarding items on B2? Any questions regarding items on B3?
B4, B5, B6,
I have a question.
on B6?
No, not on B6, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You were going fast, so I was going faster.
Oh, okay. B7?
I have a question on B7. L, M, and N. During our Personnel Committee meeting, there was no, individuals were not selected for those positions, and since the Athletic Committee hasn't met yet, and these don't start till August 1st or July 1st, I think, can we remove them and have them at next month's agenda, just so we can go through the committee process properly?
That's what the board so chooses.
The athletic personnel, B7 and 8, L, M, and N, they don't start until July 1st or October 1st. Neither were available during the personnel or athletic committee. We did not have a meeting because our AD is on vacation. So I wanted to remove them from this agenda and just introduce them next month, and that way we can go through the committee process, as we should. No, July 1st and August 1st. We have a June meeting.
It's fine by me.
There's no urgency. I mean, you can discuss it and have it approved in June. No, it doesn't start till July 1st or August 1st, and we still have the month of June. Yeah, to
wanna be
review,
able to
just
select-
go through the committee process and just like we're supposed to, and they'll be ready for the next
Whose
board meeting.
recommendation was this?
I don't know whose recommendations. I would imagine the superintendent, the AD.
Oh, it was the superintendent's recommendation, so.
But I understand that, but it didn't go through committee, and athletics didn't even have a meeting, so they didn't talk about it either, and personnel, we didn't speak of it either. And the AD's been on vacation for a couple of weeks, so.
I understand what you're saying, but to me, if the superintendent has made a recommendation because she does run the district, we don't know those
There's
people.
no harm in waiting a month. It's not as if they have to start till July 1st. I was just trying to bring it to committee where committee of the board has committees and it goes through committee. If athletics had a meeting, then they may have had the names, but personnel did not.
If the board gets,
It's
or your
up to,
committee meets,
Right.
and they make a recommendation, but that may not be what the superintendent's wants. So
nobody's ever argued with athletics. Nobody's ever said no. I'm just trying to make sure the process is followed, that's all.
I think the process has been followed.
So
Whatever
quick-
the board wishes to do. It's only a suggestion since neither committee had the opportunity to discuss it, that's all.
What's the board's favor? Let's just. Okay, so,
Hear me. I'm following, thank you. I'm following the superintendent's recommendation.
Ms. Cook,
Superintendent.
Mr. Grillo,
I mean, I really don't see any, I don't. Is it all of them that we would have to go through in committee? Or just the,
It's not as if I'm disagreeing with the recommendation. I'm just saying the process of committees was skipped, and it has been a common practice. So all I'm saying is it wouldn't hurt to wait till next month, have the committee go, yes.
okay, so in the
That's
interest
all.
of continuity, usually it goes through committee. I don't think anyone's opposed to the names on this list. And it's not emergent. Like, if they were starting next month, I would just try to push it through today. But for continuity, we can afford the other month. We can afford the additional month. I think the names should stay the same. These are the superintendent's recommendation, but they can come through committee. I don't think that the committee should oppose the names, so.
Would that make the board president happy? Okay, then I will go with the committee.
The 8th,
Okay, just a point of clarification. So we're going to table items L and M on B7. The recommendation came, excuse me?
L, M, and N, I think she said.
Okay, L, M, and N. And just as a point of clarification, when the resolution item was generated, they came to me as a recommendation from the athletic director who interviewed these individuals for these positions. But we will put them on for the June agenda per the board's request.
Thank you.
Any questions regarding items on B8? B9?
I just wanted to, if we could, number 9, discuss, we're going to exec just to give the board an overview of that situation before they vote.
Yes, we did discuss it in personnel, but we can definitely have circle back in the closed session.
Thank you.
B10?
Number 10, it wasn't discussed in our committee. It's not that I would be opposed to to an increase, I just don't know what it is, and since I don't,
Which number are you referring
number,
to?
B9, number 10, if we could discuss that quickly in exec, just so we know what the item is.
Yeah, I do believe Mr. Hastings brought that up in his committee meetings, but we can circle back and refresh that conversation that was already discussed.
Thank you.
Any questions on items B10?
I'm sorry, I have a question on B10, just one item. The creation of, number 11, the job creation, is there a description for that job? It didn't come up in personnel, so it wasn't vetted in committee.
Yes, this is something that is for the summer only. It's a summer learning loss position.
Is there a job description for that title?
Yes, there is.
It's not on the agenda, that's why I was asking.
Okay.
When does this start?
This would start for the summer.
What date does summer school start? Can we just postpone on number 11 until we get the job description, everybody has a chance to look at it, and we just go over it in personnel if it's July?
If I can, just in looking at item number 17, it indicates that those individuals are to start working June 23rd. Offhand, I don't know the date of the next board meeting, but my concern would be that they would have to start working prior to the next board meeting, potentially.
Is this that in particular title? It's a new title. It hasn't even had a job description yet. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, I'm
This is
sorry.
for
I'm
ESSER.
looking at the wrong item. I apologize.
Yeah, this is number 11. It's for the New Jersey ESSER funds.
So the concern is the procedure would be, and this is also because of the release time of the ESSER funds and the fact that we have to have a plan in place for our ESSER 3 funds and how we're going to utilize and support summer learning loss. If you recall, the job creation, we need to have a job creation created on one board agenda. So once the position is created, then we can use on the next agenda the opportunity, once it's been posted, to conduct interviews and then ultimately hire staff. By delaying this job creation posting, then we won't be able to have said individuals in place in the time frame that we need to for our plan. I do realize it was short notice, but we also received rather short notice
from the state in terms of those requirements and the submission of a plan.
Is there a job description then? But it's not, okay, do you understand what I'm saying is that we have no description, you have a title, and we're approving, I understand that, it's just that I don't know what the job is.
Does a job description exist? Do we have
Yes,
access to it?
there's a job description that
Okay,
exists.
so we're going
It
to be
wasn't
going into
in the-
executive session. Can we get it, I guess, between then and there so that we can keep it on this agenda?
I'll try to see if I can have the email.
Oh,
I didn't realize it wasn't a part of the attachment. Are there any other questions regarding items on B10? Any questions regarding items on B11? B12? B13? And on B14, the addenda item was just received this morning, and so that's why I placed it on the agenda for tonight. Okay, Madam President, that completes my review.
thank you, Madam Superintendent. Mr. Hastings?
Thank you, Madam President. Be happy to answer any questions on the business agenda, C1 number 1 through C5 number 11. I would like to point out on C2, 4 donations from the first one was from the Kiwanis of Asbury Park in bilingual books. The second was a scholarship donation from Dr. Karad. The third, a donation of book awards totaling $600 from the AP High School Class of '88 Benevolent Foundation. And a donation from Miss Arlene F. Haas of a Kimball upright piano and bench, which will be going to the 7th and 8th grade floor of the high school. I would also note on C4, number 10 is our agreement. The negotiations committee worked with the APA bargaining unit to finalize an agreement that was approved by both teams, and that is being presented to the board tonight for ratification. It's been ratified by the union membership, and this is the last step in having the board approve the agreement. It's a 5-year agreement, including the current school year that's just wrapping up. And as we noted earlier in the committee report out, the facilities are listed under item 11.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Are there any questions at this point?
I just had one question about C1, number 2. What was the adjustment to the school budget? I don't see it on the, I know it says attachment C2, but it doesn't,
So
it's not loading.
each month, we receive requests for transfers, budget transfers between line items, and those are required to be approved by the board each month. So you'll see C2 as an attachment, and that shows any transfer of money where we may have needed to move funds from one account line to another account line to address a new priority or a change in priorities.
Thanks.
I have a question on number 9, the general health care personnel. I don't know, maybe I've asked this before, is that a conflict with our agency that we have, our sub-agency that we contract with? Because the contract says it states all types of personnel that they can supply the district.
Are you referencing our agreement with, thank you.
Well,
It just went out of my head. Kelly Services?
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
so Kelly Services agreement is to provide substitute teachers. It is not a conflict for the general healthcare personnel item to provide other professionals as needed. The main issues that come up in that contract with Kelly relates to us perhaps hiring someone that was on their staff. So if someone was subbing for us and we liked them and we wanted to hire them full-time, that's where you get into perhaps a fee due to them based on them finding a person and us hiring them.
The other question I had was number 10. Everybody, I just wanted to make sure that we don't have to discuss it if all the board members have an understanding of the MOA, because I know in some of the committees, that I was in, we did discuss it a little bit. I didn't know.
So we
The
did,
MOA
this is
with
the
the
memorandum of
contract with
agreement
the
with the
teachers,
union. We did address those in the finance, B&G, and policy committees. I know, Ms. Lozinski, you're in personnel, and I think you maybe had brought that up as an item that would be there.
Yeah, it's not in detail, though. So I didn't know if everybody understood it or if we needed to just go over it real quick in exec. Everybody understands, or would you like it to go under exec? Just real quick.
Well, I think if we go into exec, one of
We'll
the
go
items
over it,
can be
yeah.
noted, and if somebody has a question.
Yeah.
All right, right now, as there's no additional questions or comments, we're going to be going into exec for the remainder of the time of workshop. Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act allows for exclusion from discussion at the public portion of the meeting of certain matters as outlined below, and whereas the Asbury Park Board of Education wishes to discuss such matter is made and will be made such discussions public when the proper conclusion has been reached. Now therefore be resolved that the May 27th, 2021 as Asbury Park, New Jersey, for the purpose as outlined and described below, upon return action may be taken.
And just for the benefit of the members of the public, we're going to be going into executive session to discuss personnel matters, matters of contract negotiations, pending and anticipated litigation, as well as for the board to receive attorney-client advice. It's anticipated that we'll be in executive session for anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes or so. So I just wanted to make the public aware of that as well. Thank you.
We have a motion, please.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Breach, second by Ms. Lozinski. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
delay, and we are starting our meeting now. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10, 4-6, PL 1975, C 231, S1, amended 2006, C 70, S2. The Asbury Park Board of Education has provided adequate notice of this meeting by sending a notice of the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting to the Asbury Park Press and the New Coaster on January 8, 2021 via email. Copies of this notice have also been placed at the Administration Buildings Bulletin Board, District Schools, Asbury Park Municipal Buildings, Asbury Park Police Department, and filed with the city clerk on January 8, 2021. The mission statement of the Asbury Park of the Asbury Park School District is to provide all students with a comprehensive and progressive education where everyone possesses the skills and character to succeed in a diverse, evolving global society. Roll call, please, Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Alves Anderson? Ms. Breach? Ms. Cook? Mr. Grillo?
Here.
Mr. LaRocca? Mr. Remy? Mr. Saunders? Ms. Lozinski? Ms. Etienne?
I am here. Hey, can we stand for the flag salute, please? Do we have any presentations tonight?
Yes, we do, Madam President. First and foremost, at our last board meeting, I mentioned an essay contest as well as an email that I received from the superintendent in Brielle. Just by way of context, there was an essay contest conducted by a member, a store owner in our community on Cookman Avenue. Her friend passed away, her childhood friend passed away. She wanted to remember her childhood friend, and she wanted to partner with, as a business owner, the Asbury Park School District to recognize her childhood friend's passing. She wanted an essay contest or picture for students in the Asbury Park School District, and the elementary school that was selected was Bradley Elementary School. It was a very short turnaround time. I want to acknowledge Mrs. Jackson Byers for not only answering the call to coordinate these efforts, but also she expanded it throughout the entire grade level, where all of the first grade students were able to participate. It was as a result of the entire grade level's participation and Mrs. Byers' coordination that all of the students compiled a booklet. This booklet was then shared with the superintendent in Brielle. I, to this day, get goosebumps when I think about her comment to me. And she said, Sancha, there is no way when I saw this book and I put it against the students in my district that I would have known the difference in terms of the quality of the writing, the penmanship, the illustrations of those students compared to Brielle students. It was the most refreshing email that I ever had, and I want to make sure that those staff members that were directly responsible for those submissions and their participation was recognized. I read two names in the board meeting last month. The two individuals that I mentioned in the board meeting last month were Ms. Corinne Bobick and Ms. Jocelyn Costanzo. After having had further conversation with Mrs. Jackson Byers, I became aware that Ms. Lynn Johnson and Mr. Joseph Mancino were extremely instrumental in the compilation of this book and that work. Tonight, we want to recognize all of those individuals, including Mrs. Jackson Byers, for exemplary leadership at very short notice and then going the extra mile. It was that work and that effort that is tied to what we call hard work, as well as performance, passion, and purpose. It's also indicative of the work that we've been engaged in the Asbury Park School District in terms of our literacy initiative. This was, again, wonderful to hear, and I want to share it with the actual boots on the ground who make this work happen on a daily basis. So many thanks to all of the teachers, but tonight I want to specifically acknowledge those teachers that I've mentioned. So, Madam President, if you would join me, we have certificates and medals of honor to just highlight the exemplary work of those individuals. Madam Vice President, would you join us? And our chairperson for curriculum and instruction. Well, I have Mrs. Lynn Johnson already here. Wonderful. Let me give you the medals. Oh, you're the only one? Okay, so Ms. Lynn Johnson is the only one. We have a lot going on. This is our first in-person board meeting. I thought it was more so fitting and appropriate to acknowledge them in person at our first meeting. And so we're going to just ask that you receive the certificates on behalf of your colleagues at Bradley Elementary School. All right, we could take a group picture. Again, thank you, Team Bradley, for your above and beyond hard work. Okay. So that concludes my presentation. Next is my report. The data dashboard is included for your review. It highlights our district enrollment. The other thing I want to mention and highlight is the great work from our special education department. I want to thank Clem Bramley, Ms. Middleton, and the entire special education department for your leadership and for the great work in the form of an acknowledgement that I received from the Department of Education. Specifically, it relates to the disproportionate representation compliance monitoring report. Disproportionality in monitoring was an issue in our district in that there was an overrepresentation of racial and ethnic groups in special education. The letter I received states that after a review of the district's compliance with federal special education requirements regarding significant disproportionality and disproportionate representation of racial ethnic groups in special education was conducted by the New Jersey Office of Special Education Policy and Dispute Resolution. The district demonstrated 100% compliance with the compliance requirements reviewed. The 100% compliance is, again, a reflection of the leadership of our special education department, as well as our special education team, the actual boots on the ground, not just only the central office oversight, but those individuals that are working in child study teams, on child study teams, related services, as well as our classroom teachers. And I want the record to reflect they are to be commended for their work, because this is not something that happens by happenstance. It is the collective effort of many individuals. The next item I want to acknowledge is from May 13th. On May 13th, we had an opportunity, and it was very closed, so due to COVID, very strict COVID regulations at Brookdale Community College. The president was very judicious in how many people were allowed to attend, and as a school district, we wanted to ensure that our families would be able to be present and as many family members as possible could attend. So I wanted to reflect that on May 13th, 2021, 16 Asbury Park High School students graduated with an associate's degree in social sciences before obtaining their high school diploma. Again, this represents hard work. It represents the collective effort of not only the high school teachers, because we understand that students could not achieve at these high levels just from high school. It represents the collective effort of all of the teachers that have touched and impacted those 16 students' lives. And it's a commitment to performance, passion, and purpose. And I wanted to take the time to draw the board's attention to that and publicly acknowledge those educators for their continued commitment. And lastly, the Asbury Park High School graduation will be June 22nd at 5:30 p.m. and the awards banquet will also be the day before, June 21st at 5:30 p.m. A more formal invitation will follow, but please consider this as a save the date. Madam President, that completes my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Dr. Howard, would you like to do your report on the HIB?
Good evening, everyone. So we had for the month of April through from the last the last board meeting up until yesterday, we had a three incident at the high school. Actually, three incidents at the high school, and one of them was. And those students did receive counseling, the two that were founded. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, now we are to the public participation part of our meeting. Please make your way to the microphone. If you have a comment or a question, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Napolitani, 8 Old Weathersfield Road, Ocean Township. I'm the president of the Asbury Park Education Association. I want to thank the business administrator and the board for placing number 10, letter C, from the business services section of the agenda for the approval of the APEA APBOE negotiated agreement. The association members who voted overwhelmingly ratified the contract, 202 yes to 6 no votes. This was a very long process, which I feel did not get overly contentious, just disagreements in what would settle the contract. I thank Chairwoman Lazinski and the rest of her team for negotiating with us and coming up with a fair agreement for both sides. I also want to thank my team for their hard work, and we should all be congratulated for settling a 5-year contract. This is the first time in years, ever that I can remember, that we've had a 5-year contract, which brings us labor management peace of mind and stable increase for the staff that's agreeable to both sides. Although no side is ever truly ecstatic about the finished product, I believe both sides did well for the staff and the community. Thank you again. Next, you're going to receive an envelope with survey results that were conducted by the association with information in regard to who the staff would think would be a good person as the next superintendent for the school district. 216 staff members took the survey. That's more than actually voted on the contract. I simply ask that you look at the information, review the graphs and the comments, as we are the second largest stakeholder in the city of Asbury Park, right behind the community and the parents. We understand and we also know that we don't choose the superintendent. However, we ask that when you review this information, And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, that you reach out to myself or any executive committee member. And for the record, this is from the staff who spend day in and day out in the school system, in the buildings each day. There's a cover letter there as well with information. Once again, if you have any questions or comments, please contact one of us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Demetra Peterson. I currently serve as a fiscal specialist in the early childhood department. For the record, I am a dues-paying member of the union, and I am strongly opposed to the ratified contract due to the following. The ratified contract lacks equipoise for my maximum level status as a specialist and has historically for the past 2 contract cycles. The negotiation process failed to include representation from the spectrum of positions it purports to represent. Also, and more importantly, cynicism and deflection permeated the responses of the union president when I sought comprehension, resolution, and when I inquired about the details of the process in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Mr. Hastings, do we have any phone calls or emails in addition to what we had before?
There are no additional emails other than the 2 we read at the earlier meeting. Mr. Brannigan, are you seeing any comments or raised hands on our WebEx? No responses.
At this time, I would like to close the public participation portion of our meeting.
8:03.
Madam State Monitor, do you have a report?
No additional information other than what we did in the workshop.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to ask for acceptance of the minutes.
Could I have a motion for all A1, 11A through F?
Move it.
Second.
Any questions? Comments? Okay.
Mr. Grillo?
Yep.
Ms. Lozinski? Ms. Alves Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Breach? Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Mr. Saunders? Ms. Etienne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Madam Superintendent, would you like to ask for a consent agenda?
Yes, I would. Good evening, board members, Madam President. I am requesting, and members of the board, I am requesting a consent agenda for all items on B1, inclusive of the addenda on B14.
Make a motion.
Second. Do we mention that those 3 items would be removed from the?
I would like for the record to reflect, while I'm requesting a consent agenda, items at the request of the board on B7, items L, M, and N will be removed.
Thank you. So we need a motion for all items excluding L, M, and N.
Move.
Second. May I just make a comment? Madam President? It was, just so you know, those 3 items will be sent through committee and then on next month's agenda. It's not they're being eliminated totally. They will be returning to next month's agenda, going through committee.
All right, Mr. Hastings.
Thank you. Ms. Etienne? Thank you. Mr. Grillo?
Yes on all items, abstaining on B1E, B2H, B4D, B1225, B1330, and B1333.
Ms. Alves Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Breach? Thank you. Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Mr. Saunders? Ms. Lozinski?
Yes.
All items carry.
Mr. Hastings, would you
May
like
I-
to ask for consideration?
Madam President, I just wanted to ask, were you supposed to add the job description of that title? We were going to do that today, or add it to the agenda or not?
I believe that item was on the agenda. The members have received the description.
She's asking if the description should be added to the agenda.
Should the description be added, or can we add that so we can get that out of the way?
Yes, what you received is going to be a part of the attachment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hastings, would you like to ask for consent agenda, please?
Yes, Madam President. Could I have a motion for all items C1 number 1 through C5 11?
Move it.
Second.
I have a,
Any questions or comments at this time?
I do have a question. C4 number 11A and B. This gentleman, it's a business for him. He's not a nonprofit, and he's asking for a waiver for facilities.
Yes, so you're referring to the soccer program with all 3 points?
That's correct.
All right, so he has not indicated whether he's a nonprofit or not. You can see his letter attached, C11B as the attachment. He's looking for a soccer program for youth kids from ages 3 to 11. I believe it was once a week.
Yes, on a Friday. And it started, he requested yesterday. Was he on the field yesterday?
I do not believe so, no.
And they're local children, right? Our kids?
Yes.
I had one other question on 11C. He's requesting rooms in Obama. Is that school, there's no one in that school right now, are we allowing people to use that building? I would imagine it would need some cleanup and work before even that would occur.
Yeah, so the application from the sanctuary and Jay is asking for both outside and inside use. I believe they've expressed that the services would actually be conducted outside. The building is being maintained regularly, so there isn't any concern really with bathrooms or classrooms that are in disrepair or disarray.
And they want us to waive the janitorial, because that's an overtime day for janitors, isn't it? It's a Sunday, and according to our facilities use policy, I know that we've gone through this before, that Sundays, we're not supposed to have anybody use them, so that means that we have no janitorial custodian available, is that correct?
Yes, so as noted in the resolution, custodial fees of $1,620 and the room rental or area fees of $1,200. So he's looking for the waiver of $2,820.
Can we have him pay at least the janitorial fees, the custodial fees? Because we have to bring somebody in overtime for that, don't we?
That's at the board's pleasure. If the resolution as it reads now is to waive the entirety of the fees, if the board is not inclined to approve that full waiver, then If they're suggesting labor costs paid and room fees waived, we can approach that group and let them know.
Yeah, I think prior discussion has been that if we incur real fees, that is, that if we're bringing people in specifically for that event, that that group absorbs that.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I agree, that's what we've been doing. Whoever made the motion, can we amend it to waive the, well, I guess it would be the room fee?
No, you'd have to first withdraw the motion,
I withdraw the
whoever made
motion.
it, and then you can make a new motion, fresh and clean.
I withdraw.
So
Okay,
can I have a new motion for the acceptance of the agenda excluding the custodial fees?
I'll make a motion to accept the business administrator's agenda.
Sorry, could you clarify, we're not excluding the custodial fees you're talking about, or, well, you're talking about waiving the room fees. We're excluding the custodial from the waiver.
Excluding the custodials from being waived.
Yes, thank you.
I'll make the motion to accept the business administrator's agenda in its entirety, except with C411C, that the waiver is for room fees only.
I'll second that.
Any discussion or questions? Stacy?
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Lozinski?
Yes.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes, and on the bills, abstain from New Jersey Natural Gas, New Jersey American Water, JCP&L, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Verizon Wireless.
Thank you. Sabas Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Breach? Ms. Cook?
Yes, abstain from C5, letter C. C4, letter C.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Mr. Saunders? Yes. Ms. Etienne?
Yes, but I must abstain from C4, item 10.
Thank you. All motions carried.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Move it.
Second. Anybody want to stay?
May I say something, please? I'd like to take this time to all of the community members that came out, wishing you all a very happy, safe Memorial holiday. Good night, everybody.